We will start on the line on page from Ayin. It's about 6 lines, 7 lines from the top. The line begins with na-a-sis. We've discussed previously the effect and the importance, the need for the tzimtzum, where tzimtzum identifies each sphirot, allows each sphirot to be identified individually. And it is necessary in order to fulfill the purpose and the intent that there should be ishtalshelus and worlds and so forth, and the scholars. So here, the Rebbe discusses now in detail the effect of the tzimtzum. And the tzimtzum effect that the oiros and the spheres should come identifiable individually. But then he puts a little bit qualifier. Now this does not mean to say that they become separate entities, totally unrelated, unrecognizing anything else. He explains, no, this is not the way it is, and it's not a complete breakaway from the way it is in its source. Now, in its source, Chochmah, as it says, as the sphirot hagnusos, and these hagnusos are connected, are one with the Ayin Sof. Now it becomes a tzimtzum, and they become identifiable individual spheres. It does not constitute a complete redefinition of what the sphere is. It really remains the same exactly as it was in its source. Only that as a result of the tzimtzum, it becomes separated from the other spheres and becomes identifiable from its source. Therefore, na-a-sis b'pchinas madrega nikeres. The effect is that na-a-sis, it becomes b'pchinas madrega nikeres in the sense of madrega nikeres, of a recognizable madrega. Prior to this tzimtzum, it is not a madrega nikeres, a recognizable. It is part of the Ayin Sof, or Ayin Sof. And now it becomes na-a-sis b'pchinas madrega nikeres. It qualifies as a madrega, as a recognizable madrega. Not that it breaks away to its own mitzias. So we discussed this principle yesterday. Now we're going into the parentheses. We'll have a chance again to revisit this principle. This is quite subtle. This is not keilim, not the similar effect as it happens by this keilim. When the keilim come to be, what we explained previously, that it's conceivable that when it comes to speak about keilim, that relative to their source of the keilim, source of the keilim. And what is the source of the keilim? the aspect of the koach hagvul, this possibility of hagvul as it is lifnei tzimtzum. Lifnei tzimtzum, everything is Ayin bli hagvul, but included, inherent in the koach in Ayin is also the koach hagvul. The koach hagvul in Ayin is in itself bli hagvul. But what then is this? In what sense is the sense that this is koach hagvul? That ultimately, to say the hishtalshelus, it becomes the source of the keilim. And we already discussed recently the meaning of keilim. That keilim are totally stand-alone entities. The idea of a keli is that it does not relate to its source. It identifies itself only within the realm, within the world in which it is. This is why keli is instrumental of being the oil into that world. Without the keli, the oil remains always connected to its source. You put into the keli, it becomes an entity as part of this world. And this has been discussed recently in great detail. Now the keilim are also source in Ayin Seif. And this is what's known as the koach hagvul should be in Seif. And we explained, at least to enable us to relate to this, that the keilim are rooted in koach hagvul should be in Seif. So we explained that this is the phenomenon that even though that as a human being a person recognizes the full impact of everything that he comes in contact with. For example, in our class example, a table. We explained that table is a human spirit, and within the human spirit, the table is of a high quality, of high caliber. It represents, so to speak, the covet and the beauty and the grace, the honor of the person. To the extent that a person eats, he may not eat without standing up. He should eat at a table with a chair. Otherwise, it's self-insulting, embarrassing. So therefore, it is really representative of the spirit of the human being. In that there is the oil and there's the keli. The keli of the table is a totally separate entity. Totally separate entity belongs to the world, doesn't belong to the person. It's not drawn from the person. But the interesting thing is that despite the fact that it is a separate entity completely created from the worldly possibilities, when a person is asked to sit down by the table, he does not sense that he is now leaving his realm and going into a different world.
To remain on this call, press 1.
I thought we had 3 people here. Okay.
You may have thought sitting at a table would be like entering a different realm because
It's like putting you into a Chinese environment.
We just had a moment before that the table's so well suited to the dignity of man, etc. So
Right, the table, the idea of the table, the oil. But then there is a keilim. The keilim is a table made of wood and has certain form. Like we say, keilim is a separate material.
Right, but the fact that he doesn't feel out of place is precisely due to the fact that it's fitting, it's made for him. The form is representative of the aura.
But form itself is a strange thing to the person. Person in himself, he doesn't know a form. This is what we explain. In Ein Sof there is koach hagvul shebei Ein Sof. Within the person's spiritual orientation, there is also the koach hagvul, the union of gvul, how you function within gvul. And therefore, when it comes down to real gvul, he doesn't feel completely out of place. Not only does he feel completely out of place, if you put a person into a room and give him a tables and chairs, he will know exactly how to set him up. How do you come to think, in those terms? It's a completely strange environment to him. It's not him.
It's strange to the nefesh, but nefesh in a guf, it's not strange at all.
The guf doesn't know how to think. The guf doesn't care whether the table stands here or there.
So when you reach out for the cup and it's appropriate size and it's appropriate to drink this way.
So it's my hand that's stretching out.
This is nefesh in guf that says. No?
Nefesh in guf, but it's nefesh.
So, and the wonder is that it relates to a table or a cup. That's wondrous.
Right.
Again, because it's so physical, it's so formed.
You said many times that prison, to be in jail, is one of the most painful states for a person to experience. It's unnatural. He can be in jail for 10 years and will never become his place. Why?
Well, that's where the environment is completely restrictive. The table and the cup are enabling the human being.
No, they're restrictive in that here you cannot function on your own and do things the way they happen to be from your own presence, from your own spirit. You have to identify the way things are in this world and use them carefully. Because when you pick up the cup and you're not careful, the cup is going to spill.
Okay, I guess I'm just having trouble with this because, for example, we've had the young child with the spoon, the fork.
That's right.
And how it's so fitting, and how this keilim is. He takes to it.
That's exactly the point. Over there, it's mamish an extreme show. It's exactly the point. It means that despite the fact that this is an external presence completely, yet it has a source in the human spirit.
Right. And we said it's a wonder that he's not out of place when he comes to sit by the table. But again, it's a wonder because the table is just so physical. That's our point.
It's a different world. It's not his reality. I said, prison can never become something that a person gets accustomed to. You can go to China, in 5 years, you will feel perfectly comfortable in China.
What's the prison example adding here?
Why can't you get accustomed to prison? The prison example is showing that what happened, the comfort is not due to experience. It's not due to submersion. There's something in the human being that allows you, enables you to be comfortable in an environment. Without that, you couldn't get comfortable no matter how much exposure you have. This is what the Rebbe says. That the sphirot and keilim is kol hagvul shebein safe. That the sphirot and keilim from the tzimtzum. But there's an important difference between the way the keilim are drawn from their source and the way the oilers are drawn from their source. But the keilim, when they're drawn, the line begins with shosham and keilim. The keilim are totally ein arech. They're not in the same realm whatsoever. But in the case of oiros, gam leyachar ha-tzimtzum, even after the tzimtzum, where they become individually identifiable, einom be'ein arech legabe shoshanum koirom. They are not be'ein arech. They are not in a different realm totally, that you cannot identify one from the other relative to their source and their root and source. So then what is the effect of tzimtzum? If they are still relating to their source, so what is the effect of the tzimtzum? The tzimtzum hu rak only shiyeh his galus ha'oir. Because the effect is only that the oil should be nizgal, should come forth. Not only it's nizgale, but it's nizgale as an individual oil b'fnei atzmai on its own. Finish the line and we'll discuss it briefly. Shalidei zeh, whereby nasa b'bchinas mitzius nikeres. Then the oil becomes bivchinas in the state of mitzius nikeres and recognizable mitzius. Okay, let's talk about this. Okay, we just finished saying that there are certain modes of behavior of a human being that they say this is human behavior, and it's not due to. He becomes accustomed to it not because of repetition, because he was trained to do that, but this is human. Without that, he feels uncomfortable. Not to walk around and eat is not a respectable. To sit and eat is respectable. Along with this, when we say that the person to sit and eat, this is the right way for a person to eat. Along with this, it's also right for a person to speak at a certain moderate tone, instead of screaming out. It's also right for a person to put things down gently instead of throwing things around. It's also right for a person to greet a stranger or a friend when he meets him. It's all human. If you don't greet, something is not right. And we can name hundreds and hundreds of these type of human qualities. Are they all separate entities in the nefesh? when a person throws things around, or a person screams, or a person walks around and eats in the street, we say, oh, he doesn't behave like a human being. But there are 17 different things you just mentioned. Yes, it is all rooted in this principle of behaving like a human being. This is when you talk about the human being per se. But when you come down, after the tzimtzum, so to speak, you come down to actual behavior, it says you can identify each one individually. There's how you should eat, how you should eat soup, how you should eat meat, how you should eat chicken. Everything has its own rules. This is when it comes down, it's no longer the nefesh per se, but it is something, it comes down to a practical level. This is where you say the Iyar is identified individually. Despite the fact that the Iyar is identified individually, it still remains representative of the human principle. This is why we say Iyar never becomes a different entity. On the lowest and simplest level, you still trace back and say, yes, this is the proper way because it's the proper way for the human being to behave this way. Whereas keilim, when they come out, so to speak, from the koach hagvul, and they become real entities, they're totally unrelated to the human spirit at all. The separate entities completely. In the army, I know today the army is also sophisticated, but in halacha there is that the soldiers used to drink from their use their what do you call it?
Helmet. The helmet?
The helmet for drinking. You will not serve a cup of tea in a helmet. And yet, if you don't have another cup, you will serve it in a helmet. I can drink from a helmet. Because a keilim is not something that I identify with directly. As long as it serves its purpose, it's a proper keilim. In Iyar, that continues to represent its source, no matter how far down the line it is. And this is the whole thing that the tzimtzum effect on the Iyar, in the Iyar is only his galus Iyar, that the Iyar is now his galus is expressed, and between us Iyar proti b'fnei atzmai, Iyar proti. That's why Iyar proti is a specific Iyar. A specific Iyar is how you eat chicken, how you eat meat, how you eat kugel, how you eat bread, how you spread butter on your bread. These are all specific in Yoni.
That doesn't depend if he has a certain keilim, he do it this way. If he has a different keilim, he do it different way.
Yeah, definitely, but it's still done in a proper, decent way.
And all these different ways of doing things are coming from the general human spirit, like they're all at one over there.
They all come from the same source. And then they surface as a result of achieving the surface as individual Iyars. And you could say, this is what they're doing in the modern world, train him how to talk, train him how to sit, train him how to, and this is counterproductive on the human level. Like I told you, I once had a lady complain to me that her children are not really going in the path that she is showing, and they're young kids. She says, we are trying to train our children to be good. And she goes on and says, listen, you told me exactly what you're doing wrong. Because children you don't train, dogs you train. Human beings you educate, you explain. Then they have to do it on their own. If you train them, you're draining them of their human spirit. You teach them to behave like human beings, but not being human beings. There's a very big difference. This is why the world's screaming, hey, dogs are human too. You can train a dog to X, Y, and Z. He can train, he should do certain things, but that doesn't mean that he becomes that. So that in our training, quote unquote, we are very careful not to infringe on the essential spirit of the human spirit. Okay. So we are on the line that begins with Pinas Mid Ho'ir. Okay, in the middle of that. Okay, have a great day and a great Shabbos. And we're having bris, bris about Ur Nickel.
Mazel tov.
Yes.